Hi, everyone, and welcome to the ASPRS Mentors Podcast. I'm Greg Stamnes, Chair of the ASPRS Early Career Professionals Council, or ECPC for short. We also have with us Jordan Hicks, Vice Chair of the ECPC. Jordan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. I'm Jordan, and I'm Vice Chair of the Early Career Professionals Council, and I'm a LiDAR specialist in North Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm really excited to be here today and to hear from Tianna. Thank you.
So, as Jordan mentioned, our guest this week is Tianna Bell. Tianna, I guess first off, are you okay with us recording this and distributing it on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes?
Of course.
Hey, well, I guess, yeah, first things first, can you introduce yourself to our listeners and share a bit about your background, your career journey, and what brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, so my name is Tianna Bell. I am located in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada, because I know we have listeners from all over. And I have a bachelor's degree in business with a major in finance. That kind of started my love of finance. I had some wonderful professors that kind of inspired me to get more into the personal finance world and kind of investing and that sort of thing. After I graduated, I didn't really land in the financial world. It's a little tough of a job market. So I actually went back to school and got a master's in public administration, which is essentially government. And I worked in government for a little bit. And then I came to the University of Regina, and I've been here ever since. I've been here for about 11 years over a number of positions. And then I also, during my time here, they pay for your education. So I said, let's get another master's. So I also have a master's in business administration. And I'm now the faculty administrator in the Faculty of Graduate Studies and Research. Just a fancy way of saying I kind of watch over the finances and the HR portion for this faculty. And I also teach casually at Sask Polytech, which is a technical school where Greg graduated from. So I do that just on the side because I like teaching and learning and those kinds of things.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, yeah, thanks for your background. That helps with our topic today, which is centered around finance and all sorts of things related to it. So, how do personal financial values translate to business financial management?
So I think if you don't have a good grasp of your personal finances, I don't know how you're going to have a good grasp of your business finances. So I think those two are really important. You have to understand interest rates in both business and personal finance. You have to understand insurance. You have to understand good cash management, budgeting, those kinds of things. So I think there's a lot of crossover between the two. And I mean, could you have someone who's good in business and bad in personal finance? Probably. But I feel like the success stories will be those that are good in both of those places, that you really have a good understanding of finance, the overall picture, both business and personal.
I think when you say somebody with poor personal but good business, I picture them driving like a Lamborghini for some reason.
And they might, and you know what? They might be up to their eyeballs in debt. And what that means is that they've taken money away from their business and they haven't reinvested it. So again, smart decision, probably not. Or they're making so much money they can afford the Lamborghini, but majority of business owners aren't making that kind of money.
Okay, good to know. So you mentioned you mentioned insurance. What types of insurance should entrepreneurs consider and why?
So I'll say this, that I'm not an insurance professional, but there are wonderful insurance professionals that you can consult with, but you definitely should have some sort of insurance to protect yourself, liability insurance, just in case something happens while you're on the job. You can have also errors and omissions insurance. So if you fail to live up to the standards of your profession, if something happens that you should have seen, but you didn't, really important to have that. There's directors and officers insurance. That's if you have a board of directors. That'd be a much larger company we're talking about. And then you can also have like crime. So if something happens, an employee steals or something like that. And again, it all depends how your business is set up. Are you a sole proprietorship? Are you a corporation? That's going to that's why you'll need to consult with a professional to figure out what you do actually need. But some of how your business is set up. But you don't want your business to ruin you. If something happens, you want that insurance there to make sure you're not financially ruined on the personal side of things. And that's where a corporation is good, because that is a separate entity and you're not as liable, which is a good thing.
So for elevator pitches, how important is it for entrepreneurs to be able to succinctly describe their business?
I think it's incredibly important. I've been working in the Faculty of Graduate Studies. We were setting up an entrepreneurship center with education, professional development. And I've kind of come into the entrepreneurship world and learned a little bit more about it. And it's really interesting how passionate people are about their projects. But if you want someone to be interested in your product and what you're selling, you have to be able to explain it in layman's terms so people understand it, because some of the stuff people are doing is really technical. I just want to know the value for me. We actually met with an entrepreneur yesterday who was we were interested in his product, and he provided so many opportunities for value in different ways. Like I could use it as a manager. Students could use it. It's about, finding things on resumes and bringing out skills and then matching those to jobs. But his technology can also scan a ton of resumes from applicants and kind of pick out the best ones based on what we're looking for a candidate. So again, we met for an hour. So he had longer than 2 minutes, but he was able to say what value that his technology and his business can provide to us, which was perfect. You have us. I was like, okay, great. I can see all the ways that this can happen. And then if you're also looking to raise money for your business, sometimes those pitches, like if you have a pitch summit or those types of things, you maybe only have 3 to 5 minutes. And that could mean big money. If you're able to do that and able to say what you're doing, the value you provide, you may get more funding that way than someone like I'm doing in this question, rambling on forever, right? So you want to be succinct and you want to know exactly what your product is and exactly what value you're providing and what problem you're trying to fix or opportunity you're taking advantage of.
So one of the places where people might get to do those pitches is in a entrepreneur community. Why should entrepreneurs get involved in their local communities?
Yeah, so if people are interested in entrepreneurship, and I'm talking like Regina's small-ish and Saskatchewan's small, but we have a lot of mighty entrepreneurs and they meet all the time. There are events all the time for networking, talking about what you're doing, learning from other entrepreneurs. So I can only imagine in bigger centers, if people are located elsewhere, the kind of communities that are there. And they might not be doing the same thing, and that's okay. But you can always learn lessons from people who have been through it. I think only I don't even know the exact statistics, but I believe it's like 1 out of 10 startups will succeed on some level, right? So depending on how big your company is or what you're trying to do, the odds are against you. So anything you can do to ingrain yourself in the community and get a mentor or learn from others is only going to help you that much more to succeed.
Okay, switching gears. I feel like I should have reordered these questions, but that's okay. Why is cash flow management vital for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so I think the financial piece is so important. Understanding how to use different statements. So cash flow statement, your income statement, your balance sheet. You want to know what your assets, so balance sheet, your assets and liabilities, your income statement, which is your revenues and expenses, that kind of thing. So you need to know about all of that. And I think I'm going to answer some of your other questions, but I feel like if you know your business inside and out, the financial pieces of it, you will be so much better off. Because if you don't know whether or not you can pay your bills next month, then you could actually just fold up and then what? And what if you have an employee who's depending on you, right? If you don't know that you can pay your employees, that you can pay your bills, that's a huge detriment to the business. You need to know how long you can sustain yourself, what money is coming in. If there's any shortfalls, being able to do, financial ratios and that kind of thing, and looking, are you able to cover your liabilities? How long can you cover your liabilities for? That's what those statements are so beneficial for, and why it's so important that entrepreneurs know their business inside and out. And that includes that financial piece of it as well.
So what are the key statements that they should understand, and why should they understand them?
Yeah. So again, that balance sheet, the income statement, the cash flow statement, those are so important. The balance sheet is going to let you know what assets you have in your business. So any cash holdings you have, any machinery that you may have, those types of things, any liabilities. So anything that you're owing. Your income statement's going to show your revenue. So what are you actually bringing in versus what are your expenses? And of course, you always want to see your revenue greater than expenses. And it may not always, every month may not be perfect, but in the long term, if your expenses are always greater than your revenue, you're not going to sustain yourself very long. And it's also good to have an idea of where your money is going, right? What those expenses are. Can you cut down on them? Can you find a cheaper source of, say, materials or whatever the case may be? So knowing exactly what those expenses are very important. And then cash flow just shows what's going in and out. Because again, you may be able to borrow some money, especially if you're a new business. You may be able to borrow a little bit of money, but ultimately cash is king. And if you don't have the cash, you're going to be unable to function as a business.
What should entrepreneurs know about funding and capital structure?
Yeah, so I think, like I said, I think as a new business, it can be difficult to get funding. And again, this also depends on how big you want to grow your business. If you just kind of want to be the only person, you're just running the show, your CEO, employee, everything, it's a little bit different. You can probably survive off a line of credit or something like that. If you want to grow and you want to have a number of employees and you maybe want to have multiple places where you're operating, you might be looking for bigger funding. You might be looking for outside investors or a bigger loan from the bank. So it's important to know, or just maybe even people in your family. So like that would be equity, right? People, from your family investing into the business, whatever that looks like. You want to know the terms of that. So what are you expected to pay in return? Are you giving, a salary? Are you giving a percentage of your company away? What's your interest rate if you're taking on debt? If you are taking on debt that's at like 20% interest, that's going to sink you pretty quickly. The chances of you making that money back to be able to pay the interest is pretty low. That's like, putting something on your credit card and trying to still function. It's pretty difficult to do. So it's really important to know that. And also getting like that right mix of equity and debt. If you're solely relying on debt, it can become very hard to cover your payments very quickly. So you just want to be very careful about that nice range of what you have in equity. It might be solely equity that belongs to you, or it might be equity that belongs to other people. But you want to make sure that you're able to service all of your debt and also pay attention to your equity as well.
I've got a follow-up to a few questions ago, regarding the statements. Is that something that is prepared by, like you mentioned, like the one-person company, for example? Is that prepared by software, or does it require like a certified financial person, or how are
No,
those
you can
learned?
absolutely just find software that does it. That being said, having an accountant available for some of the other things is almost a given, or a bookkeeper. Um, I know my husband had an electrical business. It was small. He only had like 2 to 3 employees, and he had an accountant just to help with, like, so in Canada, we have to do GST returns, that kind of thing. And they will actually even teach you how to do it. But again, if you're doing those things, you have less time for the business things like finding business and serving the customers, that kind of thing. So you have to find that line that works for you. That's one thing with being an entrepreneur and someone who starts a business is it's all on you for the first little while until you can grow big enough and get that cash flow to have other people help you, right? Which is kind of the same as in your personal life, right? When you're starting out in college or just out of college, you're scraping by and there's no extra money for anything else. But, as you build up and as you get bigger and you get more comfortable, you can start to afford some of those luxuries that you maybe couldn't afford at the beginning.
So I guess, yeah, that brings me to the next question. So if you're just entering the job market or recently graduated, what should your steps be for your finances, and why is saving for retirement important, and how should people approach that?
Yeah. So I think um, on the personal finance side, you need to have, and same with business, you need to have goals. If you want to retire at 55, but you're not going to start saving till age 50, the chances of you achieving that goal are very, very slim. Like most people wouldn't be able to do that. Wonderful if you do. Maybe you won the lottery at age 53 would be wonderful. Um, but again, not always going to happen. So if you want to retire at age 55, you should probably start saving at age 25. You should start a lot earlier in life. Do you want to own a home, or are you good with renting? Some people don't care if they ever own a home, and that's perfectly okay. What they say though is if you are saving money, home ownership is expensive. It's not just your mortgage, it's property taxes, it's maintenance of a house. So if you can save some of that extra money for retirement, that's a great idea. And you're going to have to prioritize some of your goals because you can't do everything. Most people can't say get married, buy a house, go to school, do that all in one year. So you're going to have to, prioritize what's most important right now. Is it paying off debt? Is it saving for retirement? So, and those will change. Your personal financial goals will change as you get older and you make more income, or say you start a business or something like that. You have to evolve with those goals. And I would also say, learn about investing. And this is important for saving for retirement. Compound interest is your best friend. If I put, $100 away when I'm 50 and I want to use it by the time I'm 55, I'm not going to have much. If I put that same $100 away when I'm 25 and access it when I'm 55, it will probably tripled or quadrupled by the time I touch it, right? So investing doesn't have to be, and we'll talk, I think, a little bit more about it, but doesn't have to be difficult. And it's so important to take advantage of the resources and learn about investing for yourself. And then I think asked about retirement. So important to save for retirement. Even if you're an entrepreneur, there's going to be a day where you're likely not going to work anymore. You have to save for the future. And I'd say that's kind of one downside of an entrepreneur is you're saving for your full retirement by yourself. Whereas, say, I work for a business, they're paying, and not all businesses do this. Mine in particular matches what I put away. So we each give 7.5%. That's a huge bonus for me. I only have to save for half my retirement. They're giving me the other half. If you're an entrepreneur, you're kind of on your own in that respect. And I think that's something to factor into your pay when you pay yourself as an entrepreneur. Remember retirement. It's not just living costs. You're going to have those future costs covered as well.
Yeah, that's something that I guess I never really think about is as an entrepreneur, the whole planning for retirement, also like contributions to in Canada, like CPP and stuff like that. But um,
It's on you.
there,
It's tough.
yeah, I think that's kind of daunting, and also the thought of like starting your business as like a one-person show and then hiring your first employee and being completely responsible for like their financial success and
It's scary. It's
yeah, for sure.
right. You're whether they eat or not. For the most part, people don't have that security blanket where if they lost their job tomorrow, they would be okay. Some do, but for the most
Yeah,
part, like, it's up to you. So you hold a lot of responsibility as an employer.
yeah, it's pretty crazy actually. So you talked about debt being paying off debt as one of the focuses throughout your transitions throughout your life, I guess. So do you have some effective strategies for paying off debt?
Yeah, so the biggest one is to have a budget. Budgets are extremely important. Again, just like your business, you have to know what's coming in and what's going out. And if those expenses are higher than your income every month, the only way to cover that is through debt, whether that's credit card, line of credit, whatever that is. And debt is so suffocating. You know what? In some instances, it's necessary. If you want to own a house, most people aren't going to buy a house outright. Same with cars these days. It's very difficult to get an affordable car. Chances are you're taking out a loan. That's okay. But again, if you are taking out debt, be reasonable about it. Is it reasonable to take out an 8-year car loan at like 8%? Think about how much interest you're paying. You're paying for that car 1.5 times. Is it worth it? Are you going to own the car for 8 years? I even see people, that I know that they took the 8-year car loan. They're already having car problems. So they're still paying off the car. Now they're paying for repairs. Like it's crazy. So just be realistic. Buy with what you can afford. It's okay if you can't afford the best vehicle. Like I drive a 10-year-old van. And you know what? It works great. It's got like 200,000 kilometers, but I never have any problems with it. It's fantastic. And if you probably looked at what I make, you're like, really? That's what you drive? But it's fine. You know what? It works for me. I don't need to impress anyone. It gets me from point A to B. It's reliable. Some people need the flashy cars. And I think if your income and your budget supports that, that's okay. But be very realistic when it comes to vehicles. When you see those fancy new vehicles, think of how much people are paying for them. Like some of these people are in $800, $1,000 a month payments for these cars. That is massive and it's scary. So if you find yourself in that, whether again, it's student loans, it's vehicles, that kind of thing, credit card debt, whatever that debt may look like, I think there's two kind of main methods. Well, first you have to create a budget because you need to have some extra money to pay off the debt. But you can pay off the highest interest debt first. That makes the most sense financially, right? So you want to target the one where you're paying that highest interest. But there's also something called the snowball method, where you pay off your smallest debts. So you have a credit card that's 200, you pay that off. Then you take that $200 or whatever you were paying towards that card, and then you put it on the next debt. And that's more of a behavioral one where it's like small wins, right? Okay, I have that one canceled out. Now I'm going to get that next one. And then once I've done that, I'm going to get the next one. You just keep rolling those payments that you were making into the next debt until it's all gone. And that's the goal. And the goal is to not go back to that once you've finished, obviously. But you need to have a lot of discipline to do that. We are inundated by ads and consumerism with social media, email. Even if you think it's not affecting you, it is. I would get emails from like clothing stores and stuff. I'm like, it's not affecting me. Like I'm not even looking. But I realized it was. As soon as I stopped those emails, I was like, darn it, it was affecting me. I was looking when normally I would have never bothered to look. So you really have to do a gut check every so often. Like, do I need this? what about this advertisement? How can I get that away from myself? Because I know I'm going to give in. I really want that. So debt's a tough one because we are surrounded by people who have nice, shiny things, and we want nice, shiny things. But you have to be very cognizant of the fact that those people may appear much better off than they actually are. And you don't want to be swimming in debt. Like I said, it's suffocating. It takes up so much money to service interest, and you get nowhere with it. You're literally just paying a bank all your wages, and that's just no fun.
Yeah, it's interesting that eight-year term on a vehicle thing. The other day on my Facebook, memory popped up from 12 years ago, and I was building a deck at a house I owned 4 houses ago. So many things can change in that short
Yeah,
time period. But one thing
absolutely.
that hasn't changed is I'm still driving the same truck I was 12 years
There
ago.
you go. See? But like, doesn't it feel good to not have a car payment though? Like that is where I'm
Yeah,
at. I don't know if I could do like a $600, $700 car payment.
yeah,
So
I was
it's a little
trying.
scary.
I was going through the mental math, trying to justify it because mine, well, I've had it for a long time now, and it's the tires like to fall off it every once in a while, and still,
Yeah.
yeah, just the thought of that payment, I'll just
It's
drive it till
it's
the
very
rest.
constraining. Like it's a little scary. And how many
Yeah,
people have those payments is what scares me even more. Because I'm like, how are you affording that? Like how do you do that? Like good, but not good.
yeah, for sure. It's like a systemic societal issue that could come back to bite us all, as we've seen over the past few years where interest rates went up so high in a short period
Yeah.
of time. If something like that happens again, it could put us all in a big trouble. So,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
so you mentioned budgeting is like the key to paying off debt, or like step one. Do you have any tools that you can recommend for creating those budgets?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, it could be as simple as an Excel spreadsheet, and you can Google it. There's lots of examples online. All it needs to be, again, is what's your revenue? So, what's your income coming in every month? And then what are your expenses? And you can go down to just fixed expenses. So, I have like, say, rent or mortgage, utilities, those types of things. You have car payment, and you can drill down as little as you want to only spend, $600 on groceries per month, and you are only going to put $100 into fund money. So you can drill it down as much as you want. And I think for someone who is starting out and does have debt, I think you need to I think you need to drill down to the last penny, as annoying as that is. Um, and figure out exactly where your money is going, because you would not believe just how much, like, everything's subscription based, right? So if you have Netflix, Spotify, Disney Plus, um, Paramount, whatever ones you have, those add up really quickly. That's 50, 60, $70 a month gone. Do you need all of them? Could you rotate them? That kind of thing. And then there's also apps. Like there's one called You Need a Budget, and there's a bunch of other ones. Some of them do require a fee. So again, that's something you have to decide whether that's worthwhile for you. Um, but they can be very helpful in tracking expenses and where your money is going.
So let's do some role play here. This actually, so when I graduated from initially from college, we had multiple job offers. I don't know if it's like that still. I see that we have Charlie on the call. I think he was in that same boat as well from the University of Florida. But so let's assume I've just finished school and I've got multiple job offers. What should I consider when I'm evaluating those job offers beyond the salary?
Yeah, so that would be a lovely place to be in, because you get to pick and choose. So we talked about pensions. So if they're going to match your retirement savings, that's huge. Like I said, that's an extra for me. That's an extra 7.5% on, or 401k if you're in the States. Yeah, however that savings looks, that extra 7.5% on top of my salary, that's huge. And I would say it's even better because it's forced. That money is always going to be there, right? when you're saving for yourself, if it's a rainy day or right, something happens, well, now I can't put my retirement savings away this month because I have this car repair I need to deal with. When it's through work, it's mandatory you need to do it, and they're also going to do their part. So that forced piece is so nice to have. Also, any benefits they give you, right? Do you have like a health plan that you can access, personal savings plan, those types of things? I know, especially if you're in the States and there's no universal health care, that's even more important. I know there's deductibles and those kinds of things involved. Yeah, health savings accounts, so important. And take advantage of all the benefits. Know your benefits. If you can get massage, go get the massage. If you can do, if you get benefits to go to a gym or something, take advantage of them. They're there, use them. Super important. And I don't think people realize how much benefits add on to your pay, right? Or if you get a certain amount of vacation, if you get a week vacation, well, I mean, we have to get 3 weeks in Canada, which is great. But if you don't get that kind of, if you want to get, say, 5 or 6 weeks, that's way better than if you just get, a week. So maybe that's really important to you. That adds on to your benefits, your salary, that kind of thing. So I think those are all really important considerations up and above your salary. Salary is just one piece of the puzzle. And also consider the workplace. Is that somewhere you actually want to work? Is it a good environment? Do people enjoy it? Because I could tell you there are places you could pay me a lot of money and I would never work there because it's not worth the mental toll it would take on you.
That's actually a good point. And if your skills in budgeting are strong, you can manage having a lower salary and having some mental sanity versus tons of money and going crazy.
Yeah. Do you want to work 60 hours a week? That's what sometimes, and it's salaried. So you're not getting overtime. You're just expected to put in the hours. For me personally, it wouldn't be worth it. I would much rather take a lower salary than do that.
I think I used to work 60 hours a day. So 60 hours a week back then would seem pretty nice. I think you've talked about retirement savings, so I'm going to skip over that one. Maybe we can touch on it again if we have time. What are some key points about investing that individuals should know?
Yeah, so I'm super passionate about investing. And I think it's so important. Everyone should learn how to invest. You should know where to invest your money, how to invest it. Mutual funds used to be very popular. And I would say no to mutual funds. If you have any money in mutual funds, look at getting it out as soon as you can. They have really high fees, and all they do is eat into your returns. So should be avoided at all costs. I really love ETFs. So they're exchange traded funds. They're in Canada, US, other parts of the world. They're getting more and more popular. Super easy to invest into. There are tons of resources. Like if you use Reddit, in Canada, we have what we call the Canadian couch potato, which is just a super easy portfolio. We now have, and I don't know about the US, but I'm sure they have similar ones, just all-in-one ETFs where you're just buying this one fund. It's all done for you. There's a bit of tech, there's a bit of, blue chip businesses, that kind of thing. Those are super easy. Anyone can do that. You don't even need to pay a financial planner anymore. There are so many just brokerage houses, online brokers that you can use, which very minimal fees. I think, just do your research. I could talk about it forever, but it's so easy. There's no reason to pay someone to invest for you. And like I said, the sooner you learn how to invest, the sooner you can take advantage of compound interest, which is so extremely important. The longer your money has to grow, the better off you will be. And you don't even have to make a huge, return. This isn't gambling. We're not like, I'm going to throw it all in like weed stocks or something and hope for the best. And then I'm going to lose all my money, or, GameStop, the meme stocks. This is putting your money into companies that have proven themselves over a long period of time. They're stable, they're recognizable brands, and they just give you good value for your money, right? So think like Apple's been around for a long time, Home Depot, banks, although I know banks in Canada are pretty stable. I know the US is a little bit of a different place. So I say that as, if you want to invest in banks in Canada, very, very safe. Banks in the US, they've obviously had some failures. So you want to look into those a little bit more. But yes, there's so many easy ways to invest, and it's just something I think everyone should know how to do. And there's so many resources that make it so simple now. You shouldn't be able, you should be able to do it yourself.
So when I'm looking for those resources or people, I guess, do you have any advice for when I'm seeking out financial advice?
Yeah, for sure. I would say, and again, I don't know how true this is in the US. I'm kind of more speaking from a Canadian perspective, but be wary of banks. They are salespeople. They want you to buy their products, and that may not be in your best interest. There's also financial planners. And again, I think they can be good, but they do charge a lot of commission. And I can almost guarantee you they are not getting a better return than what you could get for yourself, because the majority, I would say 98%, unless you're paying big money for like a hedge fund manager and like Wall Street or something, 98% of people are not going to get you a better return than the market, what we consider every stock, which is probably between like 8 to 10% a year average. They're not beating that. So there's no sense in paying for those services if they're not going to get you any more than what you can get for yourself. So just be wary of banks, be wary of commissions. So, and again, financial planners may not charge you a fee up front, but there's absolutely a commission cooked in to everything they are trying to give you. So just be very careful, because if they're charging you 3% commission, your now 8% return is only 5%. And if you do the math of what that 3% over, say, again, over a year, not a big deal, but you add that up over 20 years, it's massive. Like we're talking like $100,000, like more than that, depending on how much you're investing. So you just need to be very careful with the fees. I think financial advising has its place, but be very careful with it. I think use it more for like, you want to set yourself up for, tax advantages and retirement or some of those more complicated things. Investing, you really don't need the financial advisor to be involved anymore. And some other places. So if you're looking beyond a financial advisor, I would say just Google on the internet. Reddit has a lot of great, if you want to ask questions on there, there's forums. You can look at old forums. And then just a ton of resources, even on some of the brokerage sites. So Questrade, Wealthsimple. I don't know some of the ones in the US, but those are some Canadian ones that you could go to, and they would have tons of resources for you to look at.
Perfect. So speaking of resources, so you've piqued my interest into finance. How do I improve my financial knowledge? Can you list any resources for that, just in general?
Yeah. So again, if you're in Canada, I think you could probably even sign up for this if you're not in Canada. But McGill is a university in Canada that has a personal finance course that you can sign up for free. There's some different, it's pretty basic, but it goes over budgeting and investing and some of those, and insurance and that kind of thing. Really great. And it doesn't take long to go through. So definitely worthwhile, especially if you're kind of just entering into this space. Like I said, Reddit, I always really like it. Again, it is people answering. They're not always right. So take what you learn with a grain of salt and do your own research, but it can help point you in the right direction. Things like Investopedia. So if you're unsure of what a term means or that kind of thing, great place to look at. There's also a ton of online calculators. Like if you're curious, I always do a bit of a check of like my retirement savings. What am I going to have in the future? That's a future value calculator. Super easy to do. And it's really motivating too. If you're like, oh, if I just put away, say, $200 a month, what's the potential that could grow into in the future? So there's a ton of online calculators. And really, if you just search on the big ETFs in Canada are BlackRock and Vanguard. You look on their sites, there's a ton of resources as well on how to read, investment statements and that kind of thing. So it's everywhere. You just have to seek it out and find it, but it's absolutely worthwhile learning more about finance because you will be that much better off than someone who doesn't know, because the earlier you can take look after yourself and get that compound interest working for you, the better off you'll be as you grow a bit older. My opinion on Bitcoin. I love this one. Okay, so I don't know much about the other ones, but my opinion on Bitcoin is it's gambling. That is what I will say. I don't think it will go anywhere, and maybe I'll be proven wrong in 10 years and we're all using Bitcoin. But my thoughts on Bitcoin is that the Bank of Canada will never replace, and I'll say Bank of Canada and also the United States government will never replace our currency with Bitcoin. I just truly don't believe they will overhaul our entire currency system and replace it with Bitcoin. And we're using this digital money where there have been lots of examples of it being misused or getting lost, right? I think that guy passed away. Someone lost all their Bitcoin and it's gone. So it doesn't seem like a very secure way to trade money. And I probably don't even fully understand Bitcoin. And maybe that's why I would never invest in it, because I don't understand it. I don't think in the long term it will become anything. And so that's why I'm very wary of it. And that's why, to me, it's more of a gamble. And it's something that I've never invested in and probably won't invest in. But that being said, again, my investing philosophy is I just kind of want to own the market. I'm not trying to beat the market. If I can get my 8 to 10% average, I'm solid. I'm never gambling. I'm never taking chances. And some people want to, that is fine. But lots of times you're going to lose. And I don't know. It's, for me personally, it's just not worth it. I just want something that I know has value behind it. I don't know what value is behind Bitcoin. I don't know what provides value. I know with Apple that they are selling products and they are advancing technology. I know the value in that company. Is it as high as what's in the stock market? That's up for debate. But as its products and what the company does, I can see the value. That I have no idea what Bitcoin provides me. And that's why I'd be so hesitant to invest in something like that.
And just an aside to that, Tianna mentioned the McGill University Personal Finance Essentials, or whatever it's called. It has a bonus section on cryptocurrency. So if you want to check that out, it's free. So I'd encourage you to check that out and do the cryptocurrency section. And also a shameless plug to somebody who I have no affiliation with. His name's Preet Banerjee. He's like a PhD in finance from Canada. He's got a YouTube page called Money School that's really kind of graphically pleasing, and he's able to teach financial concepts in a dumbed down manner that even I can understand. So if I can understand it, then anybody can. We have this question. This is an interesting one. So strategies regarding leasing versus purchasing expensive equipment. So in our industry, we're often faced with the decision to lease or buy, and it's technologically complex and expensive equipment with the potential to become obsolete by the time you pay off a loan for it, for example. So do you
Right.
have any
Yeah.
strategies or thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think it's a tough one. I don't think, well, I mean, financially there will be a right answer, right? You would see what the cost of the lease is, versus what it costs to buy it. So there's costs involved with both of that. The lease you can give back at, the leased equipment you get to give back at the end. If you're buying it, you'd have to look at what the residual value would be. Maybe it's worth zero, so maybe it does make sense to lease it. So you'd have to do some calculations, and there are, again, resources online to calculate those differences. And that may be, depending how much this is, it sounds substantial. This might be accountant territory to make sure it makes sense, especially if it's a significant amount of money. Guessing on those types of things, not a great idea. So that's probably accountant territory. But again, there is a financial answer of like what would make the most sense. You can do the calculations depending on like the interest rate and that kind of thing. Because generally you're going to have to take out a loan. If it's really expensive equipment, you're not just floating it, unless you have a significant amount of cash laying around, which again, most businesses aren't going to have. So there's leasing costs, and then there's financing costs if you purchase it. So there is a right answer, but it will really depend on numerous factors. And I think, depending, for a $5,000 piece of equipment, not a huge deal. But if we're talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's a huge decision to make. And I would say best to get a professional involved in that one.
So they'll be able to provide like quantitative measures
Absolutely.
regarding pros and cons of various methods of
Yeah.
financing. Okay, well, that wraps up our scripted questions. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
I just thank you for having me. I love, finance. I think it's super important. And for those looking, to start their own business or just, switching jobs, I think finance is important in both of those aspects. You don't have to be scared to be an entrepreneur. I think there can be a lot of benefits with being an entrepreneur. But you also have to be aware of some of the pitfalls, and you really do have to know your business inside and out, financials plus your product. And then again, if you're just working for someone, know your personal finances, and because you will be that much better off as you get older if you have a good grasp on them.
So if anybody wants to reach out and get in touch, minus putting your phone number, email in the on this recording, we've had that happen before. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn would be good. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Tianna Bell, from there.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much again for doing this. The two things that if I had $1 for every time somebody said it would be, I wish somebody taught me about gardening in high school, and I wish somebody taught me about finance in high school. And
I know.
so I'm happy I'm happy we have this as a record for all the ASPRS ECPC members for the future. And they can't say that anymore, I guess. So thank you so much.
Thank you.